when the grader goes through the second of the original piles, the clean skins and the blue skin pile. One of the density grades is called silkies. These are skins of select or good quality based on the leather, but lack the fur depth. These are the mid-fall and mid-spring beaver and will be graded as 1 and 2s.
The first and second is the first non-shearing quality beaver. These beaver are usually early caught, probably mid-November, and they are well covered but lack density in the underfur, but they are still free of imperfections. The leather is blue in color, indicating that it was caught early.
The second grade of these is 2. These are very early fall or late spring beaver. Neither of these grades are shearing quality.
The next quality grade is a second. The second is a very early caught beaver. The underfur is very loose, poor coverage, and blue leather. We also allow some very small imperfections in this grade. The next grade is a third. This beaver is very early caught, usually summer caught. It's very flat, very loose, very limited guard hair, very limited underfur, and the leather is usually very black, indicating it was very early caught. The main use for a beaver of this type is for trimming, for hats, and for long-haired garments.
This grade designation addresses the primeness. The next piece to the puzzle is to understand that the graders take each of the original piles and start to examine the fur side of the pelt. It may have so many defects that it drops the pelt entirely out of the original pile, which was based solely on the leather quality, to a lower one. As an example, a clean skin, pile 1, having so many rubs on the fur side it becomes a slight damage. So, the point is, the beaver in the 4 original piles are judged on the leather. As the fur is further examined, it can remain in the original pile or move to a lower quality pile. It cannot increase in grade. The bottom line is that the appearance and quality of the leather is the basis in which the grading process is built, and all other qualities of the pelt flow down from there. Slights and slight damages, pile number 3. These are now gone through, colored, fur side graded. Slights and slight damages A. These are shearable quality, heavies and semis, that will require minor repairs.
The next quality is a slight. A slight is a beaver of select or first quality, but has a minor imperfection that results in minimal repair to the skin, but it is still a very shearable skin. Slight damaged A will have more imperfections than a slight. The imperfections can be holes, scars, bites, or rubs on the fur.
Or a slight damage B. These are non-shearable quality.
The next quality grade is a slight damaged B, SDB. The slight damaged B is a beaver of first and second or second quality with imperfections the same as a slight damaged A. So it's a looser beaver.
The last of the 4 piles are the damages and are a mixture of Western and Easterns. They are not broken out into geographical sections. All pelts in this pile are considered Section 3. These have significant damage or imperfections to the leather side of the fur, and their use is limited. When the grader works his way through the 4th pile, he is really only concerned with the severity of the damage and the weight, the density of the fur. Damaged pelts are not colored, and there are 4 grades.
The next section is Section 3, which contains beavers of inferior quality and more imperfections. The beavers in Section 3 are limited to hatters, novelties, and pieces. They are rarely used for garments because of the amount of damage that has to be repaired. Beavers in Section 1 are separated Eastern and Western. So when we come to Section 3, the Eastern and Western beaver are combined in the same quality grades. The first grade in Section 3 is called Damaged Good, or DG1. It will be of select or first quality, but will have imperfections that result in 10% loss to the beaver pelt.
Damaged Good, or DG1. These are shearable quality pelts. The fur is either heavy or semi-heavy, but up to 10% of the fur and the leather is damaged. This grade is used in the felting process. Damaged average, DG2. These are shearable pelts with up to 25% damage to the fur or leather, or maybe 1 and 2 quality. Silkies, fall beaver. Some of the lots in this grade are also suitable for felting if the underfur is of shearable quality. Damaged poor, or DG3. These include all weights of pelts, heavies, semis, and silkies with excessive damage, selects 1 and 1 and 2s.
The last grade in this section is a 4th. This beaver is usually very early caught, has no commercial value, and should not be shipped to the auction.
Let's take a few minutes and look at some of these problems. We're going to break this out into 2 sections: damages or grades that the harvester has some control over, and those that occur naturally. First and foremost is timing your harvest. As we all know, the best beaver for shearing quality come from the north and in midwinter. At present, there is limited or no market for early caught pelts or silkies, although this does change depending on fashion trends. The only real solid market is for prime heavies and semi-heavies. If you live in an area that produces a heavy beaver, wait to harvest your beaver when they are at their best. Fall harvest is a poor use of very valuable resources. In areas that only produce silkies, it's good management to wait until they are fully prime. Handling beaver is a lot of work. Maximize your efforts. Let's take a look at the priming sequence. Early beavers are easy. They're blue and harvested way too early.
The beaver I have here, these are what we call very early. I would suspect these would be taken in August or September. They're very early. That is characterized by very blue leather. And on the fur side, which I'm going to show you very quickly, is that the underfur and the top hairs have not developed the way they should.
October beaver is still too early for the current market demand.
We still have a dark back, but the flanks and the bellies are starting to lighten up. We end up with either what we call seconds or a fall beaver, which we call a silky, which is a very flat beaver with no underfur development, or a 1s and 2nd silky, which is a fall beaver.
Late November beaver are priming quickly.
This is a typical late fall beaver where the backs are starting to get a little lighter in color and the flanks are now really starting to lighten up. There's a very good example here of what I'm saying about the back, still on the bluish side, lightening up in color, and the flanks and bellies prime.
These will grade as 1 part 2s, or 3 depending on the damage. Now, we are into the mid-December beaver.
Beaver I'm showing you here are beaver which have been trapped in the very, very late fall or winter, early winter to winter type beaver. The back is starting to become very, very light in color. Again, everything is starting to prime up there. Again, the flanks, the rump, and the bellies have all primed up. These are good quality beaver.
Late December and midwinter pelts are the best time to harvest.
This is a fully primed beaver. The back is all primed up, the head is all primed up, and these are what we consider, provided that we don't have any defects on the leather or the fur side, we end up calling these select quality beaver. Everything is completely white or a creamy color. All the fur which has to have primed up has primed up.
Late winter and early spring.
Shedding pattern of a beaver after it goes from prime to off prime. And where a beaver usually starts to go off prime, right behind the front legs, and the more off prime it goes, the more it creeps down along the flanks. It's just this grayish type shadow, which is off to either side of the back. These are getting very dark. And when you start seeing it this bad, you put this into a slight damage. Another example here of a beaver going off prime. The gray shadow area is in here, either side of the front portion of the beaver.
This is a good indication that it's time to stop harvesting.
Same pattern here. Do you see this grayish pattern all the way down this beaver? The back is still a little on the prime side, but it is going off prime as well. This is a late spring beaver. Again, into slight damage or a damaged quality.
These pelts are harvested way too late in the spring. Even though you're not seeing any bite damage, the pelts are way past prime.
This is very late spring beaver, and immediately when we see this, these invariably go into a damaged The whole beaver pelt here is now gone well off prime. And we can see on this beaver, everything has gone blue.
With a little practice, every trapper should be able to grade his beaver by primeness and know when to start and stop his harvesting activities, depending on the market demand. We have already seen how improper trap setting affects the value. Let's get some specifics.
This is where an in-place conibear has affected the grade of this beaver pelt. The dog of the conibear has gone right down into the underfur. This is fall beaver with bite damage after the beaver's been dead.
Protect the beaver you catch. Set so they drop in deep water and other beaver won't bite them. And stop trapping early in the spring before the fighting begins. And snares. This one is common sense. Snares should never be set if the beaver can't be drowned. To say nothing of the humane aspects, use the proper traps and set them right.
Once again, snared beaver, we know right away that this beaver did not drown. We know right away that if we see blood hemorrhaging on the leather side, that we're going to see damage to the underfur on the fur side. And there's a very good case right here of a beaver fighting his snare.
Wash and clean your catch. This one is a no-brainer and a very easy fix.
All right, this is the major problem of what we see in improperly handled beaver. And as a beaver trapper and a beaver grader, I find this absolutely inexcusable for a trapper to handle beaver like this. This is all caked with mud. This is very easy. I know where this beaver goes in terms of what the grade it should be, but I am not going to put it in a grade where you've got other people who've handled their beaver well. We cannot get our hand in to weigh this beaver in the underfur because it's caked with dirt. Again, you're trying to package a piece of fur to impress the fur grader.
Tend your traps often and skin your catch quickly. Makes no sense to let your catch taint and the fur slip.
This is a taint caused by not pelting the beaver pelt soon enough. So what you see there is that the guard hair and the underfur slip out. Okay, this is an example of a beaver which has been left in the water too long. The red which you see on the bellies and the greenness of this whole pelt indicates that this beaver is starting to rot. I mean, it has not been pelted soon enough. Beaver pelt which has been left in the water way too long, and the flanks are starting to go that greeny look to it, which is rot. This is an example of a beaver here which has been in the water way too long.
Keep your beam clean and degreased.
When you're fleshing your beaver on a beam, make sure that your beam is always clean and free of grease. This is another example of trappers not wiping down their fleshing beam with a beaver. The grease has gotten right into the underfur and has caked everything. And there's absolutely ruining this pelt. This is a very easy problem to fix.
If you drum your fur, do it before you flesh. Be sure to scrape all the sawdust off the pelt when you board it.
Beaver pelts that come to us that are covered with sawdust like this are very hard to grade. So consequently, we can't give you a proper grade. We cannot read the leather. This beaver pelt should be drummed before it's fleshed.
Brush out all the burrs and snags. Take time around the nipples and skin carefully.
These are knife cuts, which we call false knife cuts. And this is caused by the trapper cutting too deeply into the skin.
Flesh clean and dry cool with lots of air movement.
We often see extensive hair slip on beaver because of improper drying conditions. The beaver that I'm showing you here has been dried way too close to a very intense heat source. Consequently, it's not dried the fur, but it's actually burnt the leather.
Borax is not necessary and can cause problems for the fur dressers.
These pelts have been treated with borax. Some trappers think it helps with the drying process. If a beaver is properly handled, properly cleaned, it doesn't need any borax to speed up the drying. Also, the borax can affect the dressing process. If there's too much left on it, it changes the pH of the solution, and it may affect all of the pelts in a batch in the dressing process.
Sew or close any holes.
When you have holes like this, and I've got a series of examples here, it's much better to your advantage to sew them and not nail them. This is inexcusable. All what you had to do here was either nail it, and in my case here, you should have sewn that. Right now, this is a slight damage. If you had nailed it closed, or in my case, what I suggest is sew it. This would have been a VSL or a slate. He's lost a lot of money because of that. The trapper has done a wonderful job of handling this beaver. Unfortunately, it's a damaged beaver. To sew all these little holes is a waste of time because this is a damaged beaver.
Make sure the pelts are totally dry before they come off the boards. Even storing it in an area of high humidity or wet, rainy weather will re-wet the pelt.
This beaver has been taken off the board while it's frozen.
And store your pelts properly and away from bugs.
This is a very poorly damaged beaver. This is a fourth quality beaver caused by beetle damage, which we call dermestid beetles. This is a stale beaver. We see a fair amount of this, and basically what the real problem is that you're not storing the beaver correctly. This is very easy to solve, is that when you're boarding a beaver, don't leave it out where you can have dry summer conditions.
These are all damages or problems that are directly under the control of the trapper or the fur handler. Hard to believe so much of this low-quality fur ends up on the market each year. Every trapper should strive to ship the best quality, best-handled fur they can produce. This is how we build and strengthen a future market for our fur. Poor quality costs everyone money. Now, let's take a look at damages that are beyond the control of the fur handler, those occurring naturally. Clips. These are caused by the beaver biting at themselves, either biting at parasites in their fur, and is a straight cut of the underfur caused by their teeth.
This is a western beaver because of its paleness, but I'm going to just show you there are a number of clips in this particular beaver. There's one there, there's one there, one there, and if you look carefully, see here, these are clips on the fur side.
Scars. These are caused by natural fighting between beaver, particularly by the traveling males in the spring. Blemishes. Anytime you have black on the hide side of the pelt, this is an area of unprimed fur for shearing. These show up as irregularities in the underfur and must be repaired if possible, or cannot be used in other cases.
Blemishes. This is unprimed fur and underfur and top hair. Again, we really don't know, but it is unprimed fur. But they definitely do affect the grade of a beaver.
Rubs. These are caused by objects in the environment the beaver lives in, diving under logs, in and out of root systems, and so on. Parasites. They come in several different forms. Some have an effect on the fur, others don't.
This is another infection what we see in a beaver. These have healed up. So I don't know whether or not this is something. I suspect that the infection takes place in the summertime, the life cycle of whatever this parasite is, and it does affect the primeness of the beaver. What you end up seeing here, it's almost like a little warble fly bite. Black hairs you see here, that is unprimed fur. This is a parasitic infection. When we do see it, the extension of the infection of this is usually quite severe, like it is on here.
Scratches and claw marks. Bites are not the only result for a beaver interaction.
We see this on beaver quite frequently. We suspect that it's scratching from other beaver because of the claw marks that we suspect that's what they are. And it ranges from very, very few scratch marks to it can be quite extensive.
And mites.
I've been told that these are caused by mites. And here they have a tendency to be in a round circle.
NAFA's graders are highly trained and highly skilled judges of the quality of your pelts. There is very little chance that they're going to miss any poor handling practices. Better handling puts money in your pocket. Take the time to do it well.